everyone, we're team 14 from UNICAMP, and today we're going to present our investment thesis on Suzano. But what is Suzano? Being present in 11 states, Suzano is a fully integrated company, and it's the world's leading and lower-cost pulp manufacturer and one of Latin America's largest paper companies. Suzano revenues is divided in three main streams, with pulp being the standing-out product and being sold mainly to tissue companies in Asia and Europe.
Before I proceed, paper can be made from various fibers, with two types standing out: BHKP, also known as hardwood, and BSKP, known as softwood, differing in origin, harvesting cycle, and physical properties, with hardwood being Suzano's focus. The demand for pulp has been steadily growing in the recent decades. However, the pace has slowed down in recent years due to decline in graphic paper usage, leading us to ask, is it time to invest in Suzano?
The answer is yes. We are on three key pillars: a positive long-term pulp prices forecast, Suzano's best-in-class operations coupled with strong competitive advantages, and a array of optionalities for the future. That's why we're issuing a buy recommendation for the company, implying a 27% upside on current market prices.
In the pulp industry, a notable concern is the imminent surge in style capacity in the short term, raising questions about its potential impact on current price levels. However, would it be the key point when it comes to pulp prices? Historically, marginal cost producers have been a critical indicator of growth price dynamics, as prices rarely dip below the marginal cost threshold. So let's dive into these expenses with a particular focus on wood.
In the market, there's been a mismatch between supply and demand. Factors like sanctions with the fire and sanctions with the fire and scarce land have affected the supply, causing a surge in the global prices and the cost inflation. Looking back, we noticed that the rise in demand levels, combined with the cost inflation, have consequently supported the cost curve, leaving a significant capacity additions. But how about the long-term view?
Looking ahead, we see a strong demand for market pulp, especially hardwood, which should keep outperforming due to its better pricing, availability, and productivity. Furthermore, in our conversations with the CEO of the Brazilian paper company Arte Vinco, it was highlighted that alternative fibers are gradually being phased out. For a deeper understanding on the ongoing fiber-to-fiber substitution, we conducted extensive field research, including a visit to an Irani facility in which you learn more about Klabin's eucalyptus-based boxes, Eucaliner, and its superior capabilities. Hence, the substantial R&D investments in expanding eucalyptus fibers usage bolsters our confidence that this trend is here to stay. And to forecast the future pulp prices, we developed a supply and demand model. Our analysis demonstrates a minor price decrease in 2024 due to lower shipments to capacity ratio. However, a rebound is expected by 2025, propelled by softwood capabilities closed and limited post-Cerrado supply growth.
But how does Suzano stand out among its peers? Suzano stands out as the world's lowest cost pulp producer. This position arises from several competitive advantages, ensuring strong margins. On top of that, Cerrado project is positioned to boost Suzano's competitive edge due to its low cost, a consequence of its logistic and low dependence on third-party wood providers.
An important advantage for the company is its location in Brazil. With higher forest productivity, a devaluated currency, favorable climate conditions, and a greater available land, it becomes a perfect location when it comes to cultivating eucalyptus. Suzano's self-generated energy, used in-house and sold externally, is another key point. Upgraded plants and Cerrado will boost its energy surplus, enhancing its competitiveness.
However, Suzano's edge lies in wood. The company has been expanding its forestry base while reducing its average radius and its dependency on wood suppliers, leading to more efficient logistics and reduced cash costs. But given the importance of a low average radius, how much can Suzano decrease it? To answer that question, we conducted a geospatial analysis, unveiling vaster pasture areas near Suzano's mills, enhancing its geographical advantage. And at the end of the day, the combination of such factors sustains Suzano's status as a best-in-class company that never goes underwater.
Suzano benefits from a positive scenario, as its core business offers several growth prospects, while we have several growth revenues, resulting at exceeding $100 billion according to Suzano. However, what's your take on Suzano's future?
One promising area Suzano explores is MFC, a pulp-based material suitable in fabric production, And that's why Suzano invested in Spinova, a startup that, despite facing challenging in operation issues, is already has drawn interest from a diverse of investors interested in sustainable products. Another market that Suzano is entering is fluff, a material that used to be mainly produced from softwood fiber. Yet Suzano outstanding with Euca Fluff, made from hardwood fiber, offering the same quality at a much lower price.
Finally, let's talk about the tissue market, where Suzano holds a strong domestic position. However, further domestic M&As are improbable due to concerns about market concentration after Kimberly-Clark's acquisition, leading us to ask, where is the potential for Suzano? The answer lies in international expansion. We see vast opportunities in low-use emerging markets like China and India, where we've tracked several potential acquisitions. So, what can we take from these optionalities?
We conclude that Suzano has multiple options to diversify its revenue, yet these opportunities are not currently factoring in existing valuations, creating a positive asymmetry for investors. So far, Suzano's business model is great, but how about ESG?
Suzano stands out as a front runner in the ESG landscape. The company follows rigorous processes employing advanced plantation techniques and several efforts to reduce its environmental impact, leading to Suzano to have a positive carbon balance and the generation of carbon credits. The company also stands out for the number of women in the board and its high Glassdoor rating, showcasing its concern with diversity and employee well-being.
Suzano has also been successful in attracting and retaining a high-skilled management team. The executive compensation are variable and linked to company performance and ESG goals, while the shareholding structure are concentrated in the Pfeffer family, but we do not see it to be negative, considering its track record.
Now let's dive into Suzano's figures. We anticipate a 5.3% CAGR revenue increase despite pressure pulp and paper prices in 2024. Our FX projections is aligned with the Focus report until 2026, despite accounting for inflation disruptions with historical average. For pulp buildup, we model a total volume based on the capacity rate with the addition of Cerrado production, and the pulp price is based on our S&D model. For paper, we calculate an elasticity with the hardwood price, and the discount is based on historical average, considering Suzano's guidance regarding volumes.
On our view, Suzano's cost guidance is too optimistic. Therefore, to be conservative, we apply an appendix due to wooden market imbalances discussed earlier. Despite that, we anticipate a gain of efficiency in the next years. Regarding margins, we anticipate a decline until 2024 due to reduced pulp prices, but in the long term, strong margins due to full rampant Cerrado, use of proprietary wood, and the average rate reductions.
Due to its project, we expect a high growth capex for 2024. And for sustaining capex, we expect a decrease alongside Cerrado ramp-up, adjusting for inflation in the following years. Working capital considerations align with historical average of 74 days. We conducted a DCF with free cash flow to firm, considering a WACC of 11% and a G of 4%.
Translate our test into numbers, we find an attractive valuation with a considerable upside, justifying a buyer recommendation for the company, even across multiple scenarios. We also did a FCF model to Cerrado project, which contributes approximately 9.4 reais to our target price, with an attractive IRR.
Comparing Suzano with key peers, we see the company is trading at a discount, a counterintuitive scenario for a best-in-class company. Additionally, through a 5-year horizon investment simulation, we found attractive returns above our cost of equity for the majority of scenarios tested. And finally, to evaluate alternative outcomes, we stressed our assumptions, showcasing limited downside potential. However, what could go wrong?
Suzano is a company primarily exposed to macroeconomic risks, made the major ones being low pulp prices and FX changes. Low pulp prices has a significant impact on target due to affecting revenue, and the FX fluctuations impact Suzano's competitiveness in the global scenario. Thanks for your attention. I'm Laura.
I'm Caio.
I'm João.
I'm Otávio.
And I'm Rafael. We are team from UNICAMP. Now we are open to questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Could you discuss a little bit further the choice of valuation method and the premises that you used to arrive at your target price?
I think I can take the first half of your question. We did multiple evaluation methods. We used multiple methods and a DCF, but regarding the presentation, we choose to use the DCF to account for the scenario regarding both costs and wood prices that otherwise would not be reflected in a valuation with multiples, for example.
Okay, and what about the assumptions, the weighted average cost of capital? How did you arrive at your cost of funding?
So our main assumptions are mainly in the BHKP prices, driven by our S&D model. Also, the paper prices that we consider an elasticity of 1 with BHKP, FX that we use the focus report, and until towards 2026, we applied a 1.5 inflation differential to correct our FX. And the sale volumes, we use the percent of the total capacity of the company, considering that it's a company that never goes underwater, so we consider a high use of the volume to be sold. And also for discount, the discount implied on pool prices of the company's selling prices, we consider the historical average.
You argue that the marginal costs for the industry, they don't change despite new capacity addition, right? Are you suggesting that with all the new capacity that's going to come in line over the next 2-3 years, that Suzano margins are going to expand dramatically because of this?
Well, we would say that here in that slide, we can see that actually the cost curve don't change dramatically with new, more efficient capacity additions. And this is why the marginal producer end up stopping producing when we have such a scenario. However, if we didn't have the capacity additions, it doesn't mean exactly that the prices would go up. There are other things related to our supply and demand model that were factored in our analysis.
No, my question was different. It was that if the marginal costs is for the industry relatively flat, and the marginal cost for Suzano is going to drop because of the Cerrado, right? You have that chart. If prices are flat, Suzano margins are going to expand. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Because with the addition of Cerrado product, Suzano's cost curve will actually go down as the product matures. So the compilated marginal cost for Suzano will end up going down in the coming years.
And why is Suzano better positioned than its peers to benefit from the future prices that we see and the market conditions?
So I can take this one. So Suzano is best positioned than its peers because the company has the lowest cost of all the market. So the company that never goes underwater in the prices pressured by the addition capacity, and it ensures the company has the best to navigate in these waters.
Do you see the fact that Suzano is vertically integrated as bringing more risks or benefits than other players in the industry?
I think I can take this one. We think that the fact that the company operates as a fully integrated company is actually a benefit for Suzano. As we discussed that a major differentiator for Suzano is its own forestry resources. So by the time the company controls the forest resources and the forest itself, the production of its main raw material, the entire cost curve of the company end up going down. So it's a major differentiator from other peers, both nationally and internationally.
And completing this one, we conducted we interviewed several wood producers to understand how does the price of third-party wood providers affect the pulp and paper companies' cost. And so we discovered that the impacting numbers is of about 1,500 reais to 2,000 reais in distant areas, and on main areas like São Paulo State is around 3,000 to 4,000 reais per year per hectare.
So as the company owns its land and its wood resources, it doesn't need to lease land as other producers like Silvamos and other paper companies. So it's a major differentiator for the company.
Do you see any opportunities? You talk about verticalization. You focused on verticalization in the former stages of the chain. How do you see verticalization to paper, to packaging? Is that an opportunity for Suzano?
So here, we think that our main main expansion avenue is for to the tissue market. Right now, we think that this could be a really great idea for Suzano, but due to the rumors about Vinda acquisition, this led us to see the trigger that could cause this to happen. So here we conducted a study trying to understand what are the potential players, what are the potential acquisitions. So the main verticalization that we see as possible right now for Suzano is the M&As for China or India. Like you see here, there's a lot of possible players.
In addition to that, Suzano already sees a potential on like fluff market, and it already has like organic transformation of one of its fibers, and it's already putting in the market and getting a more attractive return on it due to its more it brings more return to the company.
Looking at ESG, what do you think are the main drivers for the company to improve their ESG score? Or how can Suzano improve its ESG score?
So I can take the first half of this question. As we discussed, we see Suzano as a front runner in the ESG landscape. However, Suzano as well struggle with some key points. So I would like to highlight Suzano's relation with local communities that have been somehow generated trouble in the past, mainly in the northeast of Brazil. So we think that with more and more projects aimed at developing local communities, as we have seen in recent years, the company could have a higher ESG score.
Also, we conducted an proprietary ESG scoreboard. When you see that Suzano has already space to improve its carbon emissions, generate more CO2 credit, and also we see that the employee's opinion, as the Glador radio, is already a good point. But the board diversity and independency and actually the shareholders' concentration is a point that could be improved, but it's not also a thing that it's concerning investors or our team.
You're showing that Suzano is cheap, it is growing, it's the lowest cost producer. Why isn't the stock higher?
So, to unveil the level of skepticism embedded at current price levels, we conducted reverse calculations aimed at assessing what it's priced in Suzano's margins. And here we can see that the market seems to be implying a really low pulp curve in the perpetuity, 2026, of about $520 per ton, which we consider way below the cost curve, and that this price will not realize in the future. So I could say that the stock is not higher because the market is too skeptical about both future performance and the future pulp curve outlook.
What are the catalysts for Suzano in the next 6 to 12 months? Catalysts.
Do you mean like the risks or?
What are going to be the positive news for Suzano for the stock to go up?
I mean, it could be a lower BRL, both in regards to the US dollar and in the effects of other.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. We are Team 20, and we start our coverage of Suzano with a buy recommendation. This is based on an upside of 38% with an internal rate of return of 20%. To at least divide it into 3 pillars: the bright future of the pulp and paper sector, the company's solid competitive advantage, and a good governance in capital allocation that understands the future is ESG. But first, what is Suzano?
Suzano is the largest pulp company in the world. It produces sour eucalyptus, turns it into pulp, and part of that becomes paper. It has 11 mills, 3 ports, and 2.7 million hectares of land. And you see, like pulp, has been its main growth area, consolidates its position as an exporter. So analyzing its unit economics, we can see that the pulp price and the dollar are the main variables affecting its EBITDA, which makes the company very exposed to their fluctuations. However, Suzano mitigates some of these issues with its hedging policy and competitive costs.
Regarding the sector, we see it's diversified, but Suzano is mainly positioned in the sale of BHKP fibers, being the leader in the segment. We also see the integrated production as relevant, since it has the most recognized brands in Brazil. We notice that the segment is not very fragmented. Its demand is mainly concentrated in the North Hemisphere, as it has a higher level of paper consumption linked to the GDP per capita and large populations. On the supply side, we see a concentration in the South Hemisphere, due to both forest productivity and economic factors, such as the depreciated exchange rates and lower labor costs.
This brings us to our first thesis, that the sector is very positive in the long term. To prove this, we made a supply and demand model to understand how the sector's operating rate tends to behave, since this variable dictates the price and has a historical balance of 90%.
Our model incorporates the idea that the sector can be challenged in the short term because the recent increased supply, the ramp-up of Cerrado, and mainly due to macroeconomic factors, such as the uncertainty of the global scenario created by the rise of interest rates. However, in the long term, our operating rate is at a healthy level, which reflects the very positive potential of the sector. And what were the assumptions for this model?
Our main supply assumptions were the ramp-up of projects that had already been announced, the postponements of projects that we believe are not feasible in the time frame reported, and finally, the closing of weak mills, especially in Europe and North America, since the factories are older, with high capex needs and much less competitive costs. And what about the demand side?
To understand the full potential of demand, we decided to break it down into different drivers. In terms of tissue, we did a linear regression and concluded that $1,000 change GDP per capita could generate increased demand of 237 grams per city. And we see emerging markets as the main responsible for this additional demand. If we respect digitalization, we see two opposing facts. The negative one on the P&W segment, because it's easily replaced by digital media, and a positive fact on packaging due to the e-commerce growth, where we see the balance of this process is positive for the industry. Finally, another important trend is substitution between fibers. Firstly, there is fiber to fiber, where the price differential between them is enhanced to substitute softwood for hardwood. On the other hand, we believe that fossil fiber has great potential to increase demand, mainly because of the ESG initiatives.
And to incorporate these drivers into our model, we made a BHKP demand projection for each trend, and we conclude that there is an additional demand of 11 million tons in the sector, reflecting a promising future for the pulp price. And to survive this challenge short term, companies need to keep their costs competitive, since we see the marginal cost of the producers as a strong support for the commodity price. That's why our second thesis is based on Suzano's cost advantage. But how does it do that?
First of all, we can see that the company has already a great advantage due to its location in Brazil, where the forest productivity is very high. This ensures that less land is needed to produce the same amount of pulp, thus reducing the average forest areas. But why is this so positive for Suzano?
It is positive because wood is the largest cost component in the sector, of which 50% is related to transportation to the mill. And we can see that both Suzano and Brazil benefits from this advantage. This is noticeable when we look at the low proportion of woods in the cash cost and its position on the global cost curve, which stands out even in the Brazilian scenario. This is due to investments in R&D, focus on genetic improvements and AI technologies. And the proof that this investment generates returns is the above-average productivity in different regions, especially Bahia and São Paulo, where Futura Gene has done most of its research with clones. But it also has another fundamental advantage.
The scale. This advantage allows the company to have greater bargaining power with its suppliers for key inputs and contributes to SG&A expenses below its peers. This wide range of assets also provide competitive freight costs and dilute the company's risks. Finally, to prove that Suzano is really the leader in the segment, we did an EBITDA break-even study, which measures the minimum price of pulp for the company to be profitable. And we can see that even with the price equal to the sector's marginal cost, Suzano would still have an EBITDA margin of 40%. And can we expect this advantage to continue?
All signs point to it, because the newest project of the company, the Cerrado, has attributes never seen before. And this is explained by its extremely small average radius, high energy production, and cheaper maintenance costs. If realized, this advantage makes Cerrado the lowest cash cost project in the world. With these achievements, the company will have cash generation well above its peers, reaching 44 billion until 2028. And to allocate this capital will be necessary a disciplined management that is not afraid to take risks when it sees an appropriate premium. That's why our third thesis is based on the governance that's align value creation with ESG practice. But what is its track record?
The company's focus in recent years has been to expand the pulp segment, with CDs through Fibers M&A, which not only makes Suzano the largest in the sector, but also brought SG&A and cost synergies. In addition, we have verified that the leveling process has been efficient, which emphasizes the financial discipline of the management. Looking ahead, we see Cerrado as the company's pot of gold. To prove this, we perform a separate valuation using the same assumptions as our base case, and we concluded that represents 11 reais per share of our target price. Furthermore, we sensitized this project and concluded that continues to create value, even pessimistic scenarios. But is this project replicable?
We don't think so, because Suzano's land purchases in recent years were essential for the Cerrado to have a great return, since they have almost double in price. And to quantify how much this would impact new projects, we made a forest IRR study, and we conclude that their new mill, under the same conditions of Cerrado, would have a lower profitability today. And all of this has been possible because of its governance that aligns the desires of the shareholders with those of the founding family that have skin in the game. Also, they have a solid compensation policy that aligns that's oriented to the long term, besides being able to be adjusted in the short one, as was the case in 2019.
In addition, the company's management is aligned with ESG aspects, as it has evolved the main market ratings. To confirm this, we made a proprietary ESG index. We need to conclude that Suzano's governance is best in class in the sector. But how does the company create value from this?
The main way is through its commitment to social and environmental goals, which allows it to issue SLBs and lower its cost of capital, making new projects viable and generating value for the society. Also, the company has invested in new markets. That's a great way to grow in the future, like pulp for textile industry, biofuels, and environmental friendly products. Also, the most important one that we see are the carbon credits. And to quantify this, we made a study based on a project certified by Verra, which shows us that in a regulated market scenario, these investments could generate for us a reduction of 15 reais in cash costs. But how do we translate our thesis into numbers?
First, we consider the exchange rate projected by Focus until 2026, and for the following years, we had a spread because of the difference between the inflation rates. To build up the revenue, project the volume in line with the capacity additions. For paper price, we assume the last quarter price, and for pulp, we made a study that aligns the operating rate of our supply and demand model with Suzano's EBITDA generation per ton at different phases of the cycle, and we project it for the future. In terms of costs, we sensitize the low use of third-party wood and the small average ratios, but we had a 15% spread over the company's guidance. This, combined with low SG&A expenses due to the conclusion of cases M&A and Cerrado, should provide us both higher gross and EBITDA margins.
On taxes, we took into account the tax-based deduction provided by the amortization of Fibra goodwill and Suzano benefits. To perpetuity, we have chosen a rate of 34% due to the uncertainty surrounding Brazil's tax scenario. With this, we arrived at our free cash flow to firm, calculated with a WACC of 10.8% and a G of 3%, arriving at a target price of 73 reais. In addition, we sensitized our valuation and we concluded that there are 60% of buy recommendations. And to be more certain of it, we decided to perform other analysis, such as a bear and a bull scenario, in which we sensitized several assumptions. And we concluded that our base case has a good margin of safety, as we have achieved a very attractive upside, even with conservative assumptions.
We also conducted an exit multiple analysis, using an EV/EBITDA of 6.6 times, which is in line with the historical multiple when the pulp price was similar to our projections, and we added a safety margins. With that, we still arrived at a satisfactory upside, confirming our recommendation. In terms of the main risk related to our thesis, we highlight the overexposure to China and environmental risks.
How do you take into considerations the new factories that are being built in Brazil, Chile, and Uruguay in your price assumption and potential volatility coming from China?
So for that, consider the competition with other Latin America players. We analyze that and we see that the main competitive advantage that Suzano has is the amount of forestry area. that we see is a large scale of forestry area, and that makes Suzano has a low components of wood costs in its cash costs. And we see that and the main modes that Suzano has in cost efficiency.
And we, in our supply and demand model, incorporate the short terms that's difficult to China, that we understand, but we are very confident to demand the China in the future because we research about institutions like IMF and World Bank, and we are confident that we will achieve at least 16,000, 17,000 of GDP per capita. So we are confident in our supply and demand model.
After studying the case, in your perception, what are the main issues that would make you change your recommendation? Is there something that any risks that would materialize that would make you change your mind regarding your rating?
Yeah, we believe the main risk of the company is the overexposure to China. That's a risk for the entire sector. But as I mentioned before, we understand that the future demand of China will be consistent and we achieve at least $16,000 GDP per capita. But you have to consider, in a scenario of a real estate crisis or a worse impact on the Chinese economy, we would change our perception and we sensitize this risk with a decrease in the pulp price and a lower pulp volume exports. So we would change our buy recommendation to a hold with only 7.6% of upside.
Thank you for your answer. Just a follow-up. What is the risk of another Cerrado project or another project with the size of Cerrado, similar to Cerrado, being launched by any other company in the world and putting some extra pressure into pulp prices?
So we made our forestry internal rate of return study to try to measure the impact of land prices and wood in today's scenario. And we can see that projecting a ramp up of a project in 2031, a project with the same Cerrado conditions would have a lower profitability because we think that capex needed to acquire forests today and the cost of wood are impacting this.
Okay, but I assume this analysis is just for Brazil.
Yeah, we made this analysis considering Brazil.
What about outside Brazil? Some large project in Chile, Uruguay, or whatever?
Yes, so we don't consider any other projects, any other competitive projects outside Brazil because we see that the pulp frontier is still is concentrated in Mato Grosso do Sul. So we see that the competitive projects will be around this region.
We have sensitized it in our S&D model, launching these projects in like Paracel and Eldorado ones, in the company's guidance ramping up. And we added one more project in 2030 here, and that would be the effect in the pulp cycle in our vision. Achieving this average pulp price for the next 10 years in our perspective. But to sensitize more we sensitized it by the exchange rate and the pulp price spread that we added in our pulp price projection based on our S&D model.
In your base case scenario, you're using a cash cost that is 15% above company guidance. Why are you not following company guidance? Are they under-delivering what they are saying?
We understand it's to be conservative. It's normal to allow some spread of the guidance of the company. It's not because of the governance, it's because it's normal to be more conservative of your buy recommendation, of all your recommendation. And we decided to put 15% because we understand the guidance, it is outdated. So we decided to put more spread of this.
How certain you are about the delays in Paracel and Eldorado?
Thank you for the question. We understand the moment of very high interest rates, very difficult to raise capital, and the infrastructure of the project to give the mill to the port is very difficult. At the same time, they need to import wood from Brazil. So the Paracel project, we believe that we strong believe that we will delay it in the time frame that they announced it, and the Eldorado situation is a legal battle that's occurring now, and we believe that's not a time frame announced to stop this one. So we believe that's the best option is to delay in our supply and demand model.
And can you walk us through the carbon calculations I want to understand the impact to the stock price.
So to do this carbon calculation, we use a project that's being certified by Verra. And Suzano proposed a credit generation of 180 credits per hectare, but Verra's counterpart was of 38 credits. And we calculated the net present value in today's market scenario. That's a non-regulated market, and it will generate 0.4 cents in the stock price. And in case of a regulated market, that the price could triple. That's a movement that also occurred in other developed countries. It will generate 1.3 reais per share.
I would like to understand a little bit better the exit multiple analysis. What is the implied, if I'm not sure if you have this information, but what is the implied multiple in perpetuity or whatever other scenario you used, an exit multiple analysis? This is an exit multiple for 2024, right? Yes. But do you have my key concern is that the perpetuity portion of your DCF is quite sizable. So I wanted to understand what's the implied exit multiple or the implied perpetuity multiple. Do you have that information?
No, we don't have that information yet, but we see that we don't have the exact number, but we see that the implied multiple and the perpetuity gonna be lower than the exact multiple. Our intention to do this study was to get a sanity check about our premise for the next year, since we are assuming a very difficult scenario for the company and the whole pulp sector by it. So we got our implied multiple, add on a spread of 0.5, and we're still reaching a good upside in our vision for our recommendation. That's our intention in that study.
Yeah, Suzano has most of its revenues in US dollars, while a big part of their costs are in Brazilian reais. What is the hedge? What is the currency that you have in your projections going forward, and how do you factor that?
Well, we have done our evaluation in reais, but we sensitize all the assumptions that are dollarized to the exchange rate. So we consider the focus is expected for the exchange rate in the future, and for cash costs, for example, we use 80% of the cash costs in real terms in reais, and 20% in dollars. And for the revenue, all in dollarized because the company is normal dollarized.
Antes disso, eu vou passar aqui a palavra para os judges, para eles tecerem comentários, enfim, poderem ter contato com vocês.
Bom, pessoal, como o Gustavo comentou no começo aí da apresentação, é o 6º ano que eu estou participando aqui dessa competição como judge. Eu tenho muita tranquilidade de dizer que esse ano, como a gente vem se surpreendendo continuamente durante todos os anos, mas esse ano continuou, a média das apresentações foi tranquilamente a melhor desde que eu comecei. A gente vê que ano após ano, eu não sei como é que isso acontece, eu não sei se vocês veem o que acontece nos anos anteriores e puxam em cima disso, mas é impressionante a melhoria contínua que a gente vê aí dos trabalhos, da qualidade das análises. Um outro recado que eu queria dar, um outro ponto que eu queria tocar, é que isso aqui está se tornando cada vez mais uma competição de altíssimo nível. Eu não sei quem tem a oportunidade de assistir aquele documentário do Netflix sobre a Fórmula 1, Drive to Survive. Muito legal, recomendo. Para quem gosta do esporte, então, é muito bacana. É uma maneira de ver como as coisas funcionam dentro ali da Fórmula 1, que é um esporte de alto rendimento, de alta competitividade. E uma das coisas que a gente consegue perceber lá é que a diferença acaba sendo nos detalhes. Do mesmo jeito que, não só a questão da velocidade, mas a diferença entre o primeiro e o último colocado são, sei lá, 1 ou 2 segundos. Aqui, para nós, é muito claro que a diferença entre o melhor e o segundo melhor e o terceiro melhor e tal são detalhes, mas assim, são muito pequenos detalhes. Então, assim, quem não for campeão Não acho que fez um trabalho ruim, não acho que, putz, me empenhei e tal. É cruel, foi difícil para a gente, tá? Foi difícil, foi um ano... Já tive anos em que a decisão foi mais fácil, que estava claro ali quem era o vencedor, quem não era. Esse ano não, esse ano a gente de fato teve dificuldade em desempatar, tá? Então, e o desempate onde é que é? É no milésimo de segundo, tá? É ali no detalhezinho, uma explicação um pouquinho melhor. Uma questão que eu acho que eu aproveito para deixar de mensagem para as próximas edições, que eu acho que o material das edições anteriores acaba virando referência para as próximas edições. Todo mundo tem uma capacidade de análise, a média das apresentações tem uma capacidade de análise fantástica. O diferencial está sendo na capacidade de síntese, tá? O que é importante na tese. Desenvolver 1000 análises, beleza, o apêndice está lá para isso, botar, fica ali de referência e tal, mas a linha mestra da apresentação, ela tem que seguir uma lógica, ela tem que ser concisa, ela tem que entregar uma mensagem clara. Jogar um slide e deixar o slide 3 segundos e passar para o próximo, não houve síntese, tá? Então, fica essa dica aí, principalmente para as próximas edições, mas, assim, reforço a mensagem de que a qualidade dos trabalhos foi altíssima, foi super difícil. E aí um último recado também que eu deixo, acho que um pouco o Gustavo falou disso no começo do dia hoje, que é o programa do CFA, né? Enfim, vocês estão aqui voluntariamente, passaram por tudo que passaram para produzir os trabalhos, produzir os relatórios, para fazer a apresentação e tal, porque vocês escolheram fazer isso, ninguém obrigou. Vocês veem que isso é uma vantagem competitiva futura na carreira de vocês, está certo. Na hora que chega um currículo para mim de alguém que passou pelo CFA Challenge, mesmo que não tenha sido ganhador e tal, a gente sabe todo o trabalho que deu, e, by the way, voluntariamente, né, sem uma pressão externa objetiva, sem professor falando que tem que entregar em tal data e tal. Acho que a cara do CFA, os valores do CFA estão muito parecidos com isso. É uma prova que você escolhe fazer porque você acha que vai fazer uma diferença para você e você precisa ter a autodisciplina de ir lá, estudar pra caramba e tal, e prestar. São valores que a gente identifica quando a gente pega o currículo de alguém e fala, putz, esse cara, ele tem drive, ele tem, putz, eu vou por conta própria ali, vou fazer. Então, para mim é super óbvio aí que, se não todos, a grande maioria deve perseguir aí a prova do CFA. Super recomendo, acho fantástico. E é isso, pessoal. Parabéns pela qualidade dos trabalhos, né? Uma última mensagem, talvez, que eu queria também deixar, que eu gosto sempre de pontuar também, é sobre o pensamento crítico, é sobre a capacidade de ultrapassar um pouquinho as fórmulas daquilo que está estabelecido. Assim, puxa, como é que faz? Talvez, para a grande maioria das equipes, vocês vão lembrar que eu questionei sobre custo de dívida, né? Por que é só o diferencial de inflação? Faz sentido isso? É só porque o Damodaran falou? Por que o Damodaran falou isso? Vamos questionar. Já houve um momento no mundo, as pessoas acham que isso é história de livro, mas já houve um momento do mundo onde as autoridades afirmavam que a Terra era o centro do universo. E se você falasse qualquer coisa diferente, você ia parar na fogueira. Depois descobrimos que não é bem assim. Será que tudo que está por aí, nos livros, ali no Damodaran e tal, tudo está irreformável, inquestionável? Acho que talvez não. Talvez tenha uma coisinha ou outra aí que a gente ouve como sendo verdade dada e talvez não seja. Então, nunca esquecer que tudo que você... Por que está sendo feito desse jeito? Por que a fórmula é assim? Faz sentido? Isso conversa com a realidade? Deixo essa mensagem para sempre se questionar. O conhecimento, ele está sempre em evolução, ele não vem pronto. O livro, ele representa aquilo que é o melhor conhecimento hoje, mas amanhã, depois, as coisas podem ser diferentes. Então, nunca se esqueçam aí que vocês, como quem está à frente do desenvolvimento, tudo bem, não são acadêmicos necessariamente. Acho que cada vez mais essa distinção entre o que é um acadêmico e o que não é um acadêmico vai ficando mais embaçada, né? Mas vocês certamente são a elite do conhecimento aqui, do que está vindo em termos de conhecimento do financeiro. Então, vocês têm essa responsabilidade. Eu sugiro, né, vocês sempre pensarem por esse lado na hora de vocês continuarem os estudos, entenderem o mercado, enfim. Tá bom, pessoal? Parabéns, obrigado pela presença no evento e boa sorte a todas as equipes aí.
Pessoal, boa tarde a todos. Meu nome é Vincent, sou analista na Moody's Investor Service. Eu sou aqui dentro do corpo de juízes o mais novo, era a minha primeira experiência como juiz. E realmente eu não esperava um nível tão aprofundado, uma análise de tanta qualidade quanto tudo que eu vi hoje. Eu realmente fiquei muito impressionado, aprendi muito com cada um de vocês. E para mim foi uma experiência excepcional. Eu sei que para vocês também tem sido, vocês também aprenderam muito. E queria agradecer e parabenizar-os a todos pelo trabalho e ótima qualidade de análise que vocês produziram. Dentro dos trabalhos, a gente viu tem alguns grupos focaram mais em algum aspecto da análise, outros em outros aspectos com um pouco mais de profundidade. Alguns olharam mais os custos de logística, outros olharam mais demanda. Alguns olharam mais oportunidade de expansão ou competitividade global. Tudo isso foi realmente super interessante. Não esqueçam também de focar no core do negócio, entender quais são os principais drivers para depois entregar os detalhes que são esses que realmente a cereja em cima do bolo, que deixa também acompanhar as suas análises tão interessantes. Mas enfim, é isso. Eu queria parabenizar-os uma vez mais a todos. Realmente fiquei muito impressionado e vocês produziram uma ótima análise. Parabéns.
Vou ser super breve, que acho que todo mundo quer saber o resultado, né? Então, parabéns, foi sensacional. Essa foi a primeira vez que a gente, acho que em vários anos, que a gente não faz uma empresa de consumo. E foi um grande ousadia quando a gente estava escolhendo a empresa. A gente discutiu muito a respeito disso. E acho que a Suzana é uma empresa, acho que o pessoal da Suzana não está aqui, mas é uma empresa bem brasileira. Acho que quando vocês forem para a competição lá fora, vai dar para mostrar uma empresa brasileira que não é de consumo, que tem muitas vantagens competitivas. Acho que isso vai ser bem interessante para vocês também. Acho que vocês pegaram muito bem o aspecto de ESG. Alguns grupos fizeram um link muito interessante com o custo de capital, o valor do carbono. Acho que foram umas análises bem interessantes nesse aspecto. Eu acho que o que também me chamou a atenção, falando um pouco em linha com o que o Fernando falou, é que são pequenos detalhes que fazem a diferença. Todas as análises são ótimas. Qualquer relatório aqui poderia ser publicado e ter interesse, a pessoa aprender alguma coisa a respeito. Eu gosto particularmente muito das questões de análise proprietária, algum insight diferente, e muitos dos grupos aqui fizeram isso. Então, mas acho que não é só isso, tá? Acho que isso ajuda muito, ajuda a diferenciar. Mas acho que o que ficou muito claro hoje, o que diferenciou, foi a simplicidade da explicação, o storyline. Quem tinha uma tese bem definida e conseguiu comunicar isso bem, se destacou e acho que vai ganhar o campeonato. Agora, o conteúdo de todos está de parabéns. É sempre surpreendente para a gente que está no mercado há muito tempo, é sempre surpreendente. Então, parabéns para todos. É isso.
Pessoal, em termos de feedback, eu vou sublinhar aqui o que principalmente o Gustavo e o Fernando falaram. Para vocês e para o pessoal de 2024. 2024 e 2025. Eu tenho certeza que cada um de vocês tem e tinha um conteúdo enorme, mas vocês falam às vezes muito rápido. A gente não consegue processar, aí quando a gente está começando a processar, vocês já estão numa ideia seguinte, o slide já virou. Então, talvez pensar em enxugar um pouco mais, ser mais assertivo, mais direto. Mas eu entendo, porque como vocês dominam o assunto, vocês conhecem muito bem, dá vontade de querer falar tudo o máximo possível para preencher todas as lacunas, mas é impossível. Tá? E um último aspecto, vocês estão aqui porque vocês querem, porque vocês são motivados, então vocês têm o que precisa para se inscrever na prova do CFA e para passar no CFA. É mais uma questão de organizar a vida de vocês, então é uma coisa que eu recomendo para vocês. Aqui tem algumas universidades que já são afiliadas pelo CFA, tem a FEA, a GV, tem mais alguma aqui? Acho que a FEA e a GV são afiliadas, as demais universidades. Depois vocês entram em contato comigo, o processo de afiliação é gratuito e o bacana é o seguinte, se o curso de vocês é afiliado, vocês têm acesso a material do CFA, mas principalmente a universidade consegue dar a bolsa para vocês fazerem a prova do CFA. Então esse é o maior benefício. É uma coisa que eu recomendo demais que vocês corram atrás e a gente tem todo o interesse em ajudar isso. Tá? Tipicamente, economia, administração, contabilidade, RI, Engenharia acaba não conseguindo, porque o currículo normal, o currículo obrigatório tem que cobrir 60%, 70% do currículo do CFA. Então, a engenharia não conhece, mas os cursos de negócios, a gente, aqui no Brasil, tem vários cursos diferentes que foram afiliados pelo CFA. É um processo simples, rápido e gratuito, tá? Então, é só uma questão de motivação. E agora, razão de vocês terem vindo, a gente está com 7 equipes. O que eu vou fazer é o seguinte, eu vou falar o 4º colocado, o 3º colocado e as 2 equipes vencedoras, tá bom? Alguma dúvida? Pessoal, obrigado, prazer estar aqui. Por último, eu tenho que agradecer demais meus colegas juízes, Gustavo, Vincent, Fernando, que já estão aqui juntando todo mundo, tem mais de 10 anos, trabalho voluntário, o pessoal ali da CFA Society, Luana, Everton, Nádia, também, obrigado pelo trabalho, obrigado pelo carinho que vocês têm pelo Challenge, porque tudo isso que está aqui, chamar juiz, coffee break, espaço, mandar capa para vocês, organizar o company presentation, receber as perguntas, encaminhar para a empresa, receber da empresa, devolver para vocês, convidar vocês, emitir passagem, hotel para o pessoal que está vindo de muito longe, é tudo um fruto de muito trabalho deles. Então, uma salva de palmas aos juízes e ao nosso staff. E vamos lá, gente. Obrigado por estar aqui. Eu vou falar o 4º colocado. O 4º colocado é a equipe da FEA. Parabéns, FEA. Parabéns. 3º colocado, equipe da Poli. Parabéns, Poli. E agora, as 2 equipes vencedoras, em ordem alfabética, FGV 3 e 4. Pessoal, todo mundo, são todos vencedores, todos finalistas, muito orgulho de vocês, tenham orgulho que vocês são os melhores. Vocês estão aqui, são os melhores do Brasil, aproveitem, tirem foto e bola para frente. Muito obrigado, lembrem de pegar os certificados e quem quiser, a gente tem as fotos oficiais que a gente vai tirar aqui daqui a pouco. E temos alguns troféus para as equipes vencedoras. Obrigado, gente, parabéns para todos vocês.